Welcome to the Sports Business Virtual Summit. This is the launch of the Sports Business Network. We've got a whole list of different sports business topics today and tomorrow. It's our virtual summit, the 9th and 10th. So we're covering anything from name, image, likeness, sports entrepreneurship, kind of you name it, sports startups, you name it, we're going to talk about it. And first up today is Brad Sims. He's the president and CEO of the New York City Football Club. Previously, the chief revenue officer at the Cleveland Cavs. And before that, he was at the NBA. Brad, I appreciate the time today. I love that you took the time actually throughout all of this and to be able to sit down and talk to us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thanks for having me, Tim. Good to see you.
So I know we've only got a short window here, so I want to kind of dive right into it. So walk me through. You're the president and CEO of now the football club, which is a franchise, right? How do you even get there? Did you start your college career saying, okay, here's exactly where I want to go? Was it a president CEO? Was it even in soccer? Walk me through that.
No, none of that. Didn't really, actually I was pre-law in college, and then kind of had this, epiphany one day that, I thought, no offense to lawyers, but I felt like there's probably enough lawyers out there, and that I probably could be a pretty good lawyer, but I don't know if that's really where my passion was going to be. And I was always passionate about sports. And so it was kind of one of those moments of how do I work in sports? So I started trying to connect people, talk to people. And ultimately everyone said, start in sales, and which is not what I really wanted to do. And so I kind of looked around for opportunities. I felt like at the time, maybe minor league baseball would be a great place to start, because it would be smaller staffs and I would maybe get a chance to do a lot of different things. And so I ended up in Durham, North Carolina. I'm from California originally, but moved across the country to Durham, North Carolina to work for the Durham Bulls, minor league baseball team of Bull Durham movie fame. And it was what I was hoping for. I mean, my job description was something different every single day. But the main reason I took that job was because it was the only job that I was offered that wasn't a sales role. And then about 3 weeks into my job there, we had a sales trainer came in, and it was a guy who's famous in the sports business world, a guy named John Spoelstra. He's probably to the younger generation more famous for being Miami Heat coach Eric Spoelstra's dad, but he's one of the founding fathers, I think, of the sports marketing industry. And he was my first sales trainer. So I think that they spent enough money on him that they wanted everyone in the organization to go through the training, whether you were in sales or not. There's like, we're getting our money's worth out of this guy. And so, I'm only 3 weeks on the job, so I'm going to, try and make a good impression, do the best I can. And after 2 days, he took me and my boss at the time out to dinner and said, starting on Monday, you're moving into sales. And then I said, what? This is the whole reason that, I took this job was so that I didn't have to do sales. But yeah, he said that's where your future is, and generating, if you can be a revenue generator, both as a salesperson and as a sales leader over time, like you will rise, and you will have, a great opportunity for career growth. And, companies in any industry, but especially in sports industry, are always looking for people who can generate revenue. And so that's your future, and that's where you're going. So it's pretty funny that now, all these years later, he's in like the Sports Business Hall of Fame, Sports Business Journal kind of Hall of Fame, and I'm in this role. And actually, bring it back to that story, my boss at the Durham Bulls that was at that dinner was Gillian Zucker, who's the president of the LA Clippers right now. So it's pretty amazing how these things happen over time, and people grow throughout the industry. But yeah, that's kind of how it all started. And then I just kind of rose throughout the ranks. Early in my career, I was hoping that maybe I could be, maybe I could run a minor league baseball team at some point in time. And then my career kind of shifted, and I got into the NBA with the Philadelphia 76ers, the Comcast Spectacor Group. And then I started thinking, oh wow, this is the big leagues. Maybe I could be a VP of ticket sales someday. I'm in the big leagues. And then things kind of grew, and I ended up at the NBA league office in New York in the team marketing business operations group. And after a couple of years there, I said, maybe I could be a C-level, at a sports team, going from here. And that opportunity happened for me in Cleveland. Spent almost 7 years with the Cavs, and And part of the way through that, I said, maybe I could be a president or a CEO of a sports team. So it definitely wasn't, I wasn't sitting in high school or in college saying I'm gonna run a pro sports team someday. But it's kind of just been able to broaden my experiences over time. And as I've broadened my experiences, I feel like the ceiling has gotten higher each time, and I've been able to been very fortunate. I've worked with great people and have learned from a lot of great mentors, and I've been able to get a great role. And so the first time in soccer, I'm a big yes. If soccer was on, was there. This is my first time in soccer. I'm now in year 3 in the role. But I played soccer from like the time I was old enough to walk, I think, and always big soccer fan, and it seems like this is the time where soccer is really starting to take off in the U.S. And so it's kind of, I feel like maybe not exactly the ground floor, but pretty close to it, and we got a sport that's on this kind of upward trajectory in the future going forward. So it's exciting.
Yeah, no, that's a great story. Are you still in contract with Spoelstra and your old boss?
I saw him actually I saw him at David Stern's funeral.
Oh.
And it was the most recent time I saw him, and I talked to him, and I said, you probably aren't going to remember this story. And he laughed, and he's like, that's amazing, because he was right before that, he was with he was a president of Sacramento Kings at one point, and I grew up in Sacramento. So that was my team, growing up. Yeah. And so he was trying to recruit me to Sacramento, and I was still young, and I was like, I'm not yet ready to move back home. But yeah, kept in touch on and off. And then, like I said, not too long ago. So see him. I'm sure I'll see him at conferences and things of that nature. But yeah, it's funny. Gillian, I see, are in touch, especially when I was in the NBA and seeing her at all the different events. And there's a lot of other, names along the way that have now ended up in, are in amazing positions throughout the industry too. And so it's been a fun journey, and I'm excited about where I'm at, and the opportunity for New York City Football Club and being part of the City Football Group. And that was one of the big kind of attractions to me about this role, is that not only is it a soccer team, which is something that I'm passionate about, but a team in New York City, which is a city I love, and greatest city in the world that I have a chance to now be back at for the second time. But it's also part of the biggest global soccer organization that exists, in the City Football Group, which our flagship property is Manchester City, which by any kind of calculation, one of the top 3 teams, top 3 to 5 teams in the world. And now, since I've been here, just in less than 3 years, I mean, we've grown from, I think, 5 clubs when I started to 11 clubs now, and all over the world. So we have in addition to Manchester, we have a team in Girona, Spain, and in Troyes, France, and Lommel, which is in Belgium. We have a team in China, a team in Japan, a team in Australia, a team in Uruguay, Bolivia. So it's just we're all over the map, all over the world, and it's just a very unique kind of value proposition that we're able to offer as a global entity, and that it's exciting for me and for others that work in the group to be a part of.
Yeah, that's so interesting. How do you analyze, like, okay, we're going to open up a new team over here? Do you look at a lot of data? Do you I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah, good question. I think, for us, there's a couple of different maybe motivations to grow and have a number of teams. Some of our properties we look at as commercial properties that we feel like we can really commercialize, and drive compelling revenues. New York would be an example of a commercial club that we think has a lot of great opportunity. And then there's clubs that I would say are more kind of player development focused. So you talk about data. You look at 2 good examples would be our team in Belgium and our team in Uruguay. So Belgium and Uruguay, and I don't know their exact populations off the top of my head, but not large companies from a population standpoint. But historically, are clubs that produce a ton of footballing talent, and that you could look over the course of time that kind of outproduce or outpunch their weight, when it comes to international competitions, World Cups, things of that nature. I mean, you'll see, Uruguay has produced lots of superstar players, great teams, has won a World Cup. Belgium is especially in recent years produced a lot of incredible players and has had deep runs in the World Cup. One of their best players, Kevin De Bruyne, is our top player at Man City, and so going in those markets and figuring, hey, these are fertile grounds to recruit younger players and to have players without in our system have opportunities to grow. It's interesting. So we got a great example in New York City. Our starting striker who is right near the top of the league lead in goals scored so far this year. He's 22 years old. A guy named Valentin Castellanos, and he was found by our scouts in Uruguay. He's Argentinian. Was found as scouts there, signed to a deal, and then went and played at our club in Montevideo for a couple of years. Developed, and they said, "Hey, we think this guy has some opportunity. Like, let's see what he can do in MLS." And then he came to us as a 19-year-old, almost 20-year-old. And now a couple of weeks ago, we just signed him to a 5-year extension, to be our starting striker. And so, great stories. Now you may be here for 5 years, or maybe, our club in France, in League One in France, like they, maybe they need a striker, and that's an opportunity for him to go play at the, one of the top 5 leagues in the world. So it's again, value proposition that's unique for people like me and people that work on the business side, unique for, potential for corporate partners, sponsors that want to, be able to have a whole global footprint, but also a unique value proposition for players like Castellanos and many others.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. When you say 22, I just think of, he seems like that's so young. That's a baby.
Well, what's crazy? So you ready for this? We just signed. We just had our biggest signing in club history at NYCFC. We're in year 7 of our existence. Was also a couple of weeks ago. Was an 18-year-old Brazilian. So we had, and again, typically Brazilians, especially top, kids that are identified at a very young age as being top, they're really kind of look at going from Brazil straight to Europe, and that's always been the pathway. And I think it speaks volumes for MLS and the league and how far they've come and the level of competition in MLS. And then also for us as a club as being kind of a desired destination, that this 18-year-old, he's been listed on every list of, top 20, top 30, top whatever, wonder kids, in soccer, that he was excited about the opportunity to come to the States, come to NYCFC, come to MLS. And so, yeah, he just made his debut with us in our last game. And so we're looking forward to seeing a lot more from him.
That's so wild. I even look at like college football these days, and I'm like, man, these guys look like babies, which are sometimes older.
No doubt, absolutely.
That actually brings up a good point. What I want to talk about is like, so we obviously ran through this pandemic, right? Still in it, right? And all over the world. How do you guys navigate? How did you specifically, and then as a company, navigate, fan safety, fan engagement, player safety, all of that? Because as you said, president, CEO, you got to kind of manage it all, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is something that I'm proud of in the way that we as a club have handled it, and also we as a group overall, because there's no playbook for this. It's not like the CEO right. you like get on board and they say, in case of global pandemic, here's your binder and here's how you run the club. So like very early on, and all the credit to our global CEO Ferran Soriano for his vision on this, and then the support of our board and all of our stakeholders. But immediately we're like days into this thing, and his first thing is like, we've got to protect our people. We can't let this be. And you're already seeing very early on, there's some first movers teams that were starting to lay off and furlough people, and we really have benefited from an organization, again, led by our board and our stakeholders that have taken the long view. And when you're able, and not every ownership group and not every leaders has the ability to do that. And understand and appreciate that. We're fortunate that's kind of been the vision of our organization, is being able to take the long view. And so we're from the beginning, like, this is going to be a speed bump. We don't know how long it's going to last, but we believe in the fundamentals of this business and what we're doing, and in the long run, it will pay off if we're able to take care of our people, take care of our players, focus on our fan base and what we can do for them in these times. And then also the big thing for us was the community, local community. How can we make an impact there? So, and kind of that coming from the top gave me the abilities to say, okay, great. Like, now I know that we can focus on so what are we going to do for our staff? Like, beside, maybe in addition to making sure that we keep them whole, no salary reductions, no furloughs, no layoffs. We looked at our part-time workers, so game day workers that, a lot of them make minimum wage and working games at Yankee Stadium, which is our home stadium. And we worked with the Yankees to put together a $1.4 million COVID relief fund for those game day workers that essentially paid them as if, all of the games were happening. And so that was something that was obviously huge for that group of people. And they do such amazing work for the fan experience when our fans are in venues. So that was something that was great, and from a fan standpoint, early on, we set up this online hub that we called Stay Healthy, Stay Home. So this is early on in New York, epicenter. It was like everyone, locked down, like, stay home, but like, how can we provide whether that's entertainment for them, new content, online game, like kids, like we did like online games and things like, print this out and you can color, soccer players, like all different kinds of activities. And then all the latest kind of health and safety information from, the CDC, the city, state, and federal governments, et cetera, to try and make sure we're constantly keeping people informed and also hoping that they can do their part early on, especially early on, by staying home and all the different ways they could stay healthy. And then from a community standpoint, there's a lot of people in need in New York, and it was a scary time. It has been a scary time. We partnered with an outstanding organization called New York Common Pantry, which is one of the biggest kind of food banks, and they focus on kind of healthy eating for at their locations. And one of their biggest locations is in the South Bronx, right near where our home is. And over the course, and this is an ongoing thing, but since the pandemic started, between our club, our corporate partners who we engage to kind of help the cause, our fans, our city members, and also our official supporters group, the Third Rail. Between all those groups, we're now well over 250,000 meals provided that we've provided for. We've had volunteer hours in. I've probably done a half a dozen days in the different outlets, and it's been amazing for us, and been kind of a game changing. We were just honored by the mayor's office in New York City as kind of the top community assist program of 2020 with that program. So it's being able, again, and that's all because we have support to do those things from a group level, and so it's I think the best. We feel like we've navigated it as well as we can. There's always more that you can do, and we would love to, and we're continuing to focus on those things and trying to deliver for our fans, our community, and especially our people.
That's amazing. I love the thing you guys did with the Yankees and the part-time workers 1.4. I think that also translates. I know that's not why you guys did it, but like, those people will be like diehard fans forever now. Right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think I know, again, that's not why you guys did it, but as a kind of added perk, it's going to always be there. Speaking of fans, so you came from the NBA, you came from actual NBA, Cavs, and now MLS. It seems like there is a good trend, not only from the ownership level. There's a lot of NBA guys who are purchasing ownership stakes in MLS organizations, but also fans. Can you talk a little bit about, have you seen that kind of trend as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think the fan support in MLS has continued to rise, and there's some crazy success stories. I mean, the biggest has been in Atlanta that recently with their launch of their team. I think they're maybe in year 3 or 4 now, and I mean they're doing 40,000-50,000 fans a game. They've done as many as 70,000-75,000 fans, and it's just been this unbelievable success story. But I mean, you know, clubs like Seattle Sounders have been doing 30, 40,000 fans a game for years and years. And you're seeing new clubs that have been entering the league that are just, you know, the fan bases are incredible. Like Austin, Texas just entered the league this year. They're going to be opening their new stadium here shortly. And LAFC has been, you know, an unbelievable success story since they started the season. That one of their owners is Peter Guber, is one of the owners of the Warriors. So to your point earlier, so it's you know, you're seeing that across NBA and some other, you know, I think within MLS, there's NFL owners like, you know, Arthur Blank with Atlanta, and the Kraft Group in New England, and you know, Stan Kroenke in Columbus that owns the Rams. Obviously, the Wilf family that owns the Vikings just in the last month, you know, purchased controlling stake in Orlando City. So you're seeing these ownership groups from other sports that see the opportunity in MLS and see this trajectory, as I mentioned earlier, that's just going straight up. You know, from a fan base standpoint, I'll tell you what, I'll say, you know, the fans in soccer are like, I mean, I thought we had passionate fans in Cleveland, and we did, and they do, but holy cow, I mean, soccer, it's like a whole different ballgame. You go to these soccer venues, and fans are like standing up and chanting and banging drums and, you know, waving flags, and, you know, they'll go all game long. Like we just played, and you know, our fans are amazing in New York, you know, and, you know, but you go to these other stadiums, and like, they're doing smoke bombs, and they're doing, I mean, it's like, it's insane, you know, people are going crazy, and it's just, there's nothing like it. I mean, they are extremely passionate, and, you know, it sets the atmosphere, and it makes an atmosphere. And if you're, you know, if you haven't been to a pro soccer game anywhere, but even, you know, if you MLS game and you go, I think you'll be hooked, because it's about the whole fan experience and the atmosphere. And, you know, I think that's why we keep seeing this upward trajectory in attendance across the league, all these new markets that are coming online that are just becoming massive successes from the jump. And it's about, you know, just the passion of the fans.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm out here in Los Angeles, and I would say just from like walking around and feeling like the energy of the different fandom, you got Dodgers, Lakers, but it does seem like LAFC is a potential third. I mean, the fans out here are pretty wild for them.
Yeah, you know, in the crazy, you know, I say this a lot to people, and, you know, in terms of, you look at kind of the equity in those teams that you mentioned, or in the leagues. You know, you got right now in this country, you got Major League Baseball, using round numbers. You know, Major League Baseball is about 125 years old. NFL is, you know, just turned 100. NBA is 75. You know, I think the 75th anniversary is next year. You know, NHL is about 50, and MLS, you know, just had the 25-year anniversary. So to be, you know, in that conversation with, you know, the Dodgers or a Lakers that have just, you know, decades more, you know, equity in the market is incredible.
It's so true. How do you fast forward into, like, let's talk technology, sports. We do have some panelists later on, some startups even, that I think could be very interesting kind of plays here. But so, and I remember you were at the Cavs, and it was right around the time where you guys won the championship, and you guys were even doing the AR, VR type of stuff around rings in stadium, which was super innovative at the time.
Yeah.
How do you, or what technology or service product excites you around MLS or sports in general right now?
Yeah, good question. I mean, yeah, I think, you know, the technology and the fan experience is critical, and it's just like every new venue or that comes around, or different, you know, it kind of just raises the game, you know, and just like investing in technology, I think is kind of the ante to play from a venue standpoint. And I haven't mentioned this yet, but, you know, one of the key components to my role here, and you know, one of the things that really drew me here was the opportunity to build a stadium in New York City, in the 5 boroughs, where you know, our home stadium has been Yankee Stadium, but the goal is to build a soccer specific stadium. And so we've been, you know, working diligently on that, you know, for years, where we continue to get closer and closer. But I'm constantly looking at these things. I had a call earlier this morning, you know, on this topic. I've been going to all the new venues of every sport across the country the last couple of years to kind of see what they're doing, and everyone's kind of like upping their game. So, you know, I think there's a lot of things that I'm, have my eyes out, and it's mostly I'm looking at through the lens of when we get our stadium, where do we have to be at? Now, having said that, technology moves so fast. Our stadium, it takes 3 to 4 years to build a stadium from the time that you get full approval. So like for us, we're looking if we're looking at say 2025, 2026, like what we know what's the cutting edge technology now in 2021, but what's it going to be in 25, 26? Everyone talks about 5G now, and I'm like, are we going to be at 6G or 7G? Or like what's the deal going to be? Yeah. But I think for me, when I think about really the mobile experience and mobile apps, and it's just going to be so integral to the experience from kind of the door, the driveway to driveway experience, right? I think in some instances we're seeing that already to some extent, but I mean, I really think it's going to be one of these things where, what's the fastest route to get to the stadium? Like, where's the best place to park that has the least amount of, wait time to get into a garage or whatever? Yeah. Like, what's the fastest route to my seat? What's the shortest bathroom line? What's the shortest concession line? Yeah. Like, I want, a certain type of beer. Where can I find that? Like instead of just wandering the whole concourse, and trying to, in all these things where it's going to be like, on demand, easy to navigate, which will dramatically increase enhance the fan experience, and I think ultimately will for clubs and for properties and venues, increase revenue, because you're able to get to be more efficient and all of those things. So that's one thing where I'm kind of really keen on and trying to see where the technology goes and how does that translate, almost like Google Maps, but like orders of magnitude, more detailed, when as you get into the venue, and how that integrates. That's a big, I think a big one for me that I'm really keeping my eye on. I think some that in stadium, part of the big experience, people talk about like watching professional sports at home is such a great experience now, because you've got big screen, flat screen TVs that are relatively affordable now, and you get 20 different replay angles, and you get all and all that kind of stuff, and so it's a compelling a compelling situation to just stay at home and watch games. And so now it's like, how do you make it so that those things are available and really kind of blow you away in venues? So I think about the what's the next level of video boards. And when I was in Cleveland, like when we did our transformation of Quicken Loans Arena, we looked at what our video board and we said, what's the biggest one in the NBA? Okay, we need to go a little bit bigger, so that you can say, hey, we've got now the biggest, the biggest board, and and we had the flames that came up, and all the kind of the flame throwing the video board to try and be a differentiator. But now I don't know, it's just about size, but it's about shape, and I think you've seen some game-changing new innovation both in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, with kind of the circular Oculus almost at the top of the building. And then I was just out, I was actually out in your neck of the woods. Sorry, I missed you a couple weeks ago, but I toured SoFi Stadium and kind of their new video board, which is just incredible. Like it's mammoth, but it's not just the size of it. It's kind of how it is all encompassing, and how whether you're down low, you're looking at the inside of the board, or you're up high, you're looking at the outside of the board. I mean, and it's game changing. I think people you say the Cowboys kind of changed the game with that originally, with having almost an NBA style video board in an NFL stadium, and they got maybe some unintended consequences of that, where people are just watching the game on the big screen, even though they're at the stadium, they're live. But I mean, it speaks to the fact that the technology is that incredible, and that and that fans are that engaged with it. And so if you want to try and battle the ease of the home experience, those are the things that need to happen going forward as well.
That makes a ton of sense. And I know we're running out of time here. So one last question, I'll let you ride.
Sure.
If you were to go back or give advice to that young man in Raleigh-Durham, what would you give to young Brad, or somebody? There will be a lot of universities, a lot of young professionals who will listen to this. What advice do you have to those young professionals in their careers?
Yeah, I think a good question. I think in this industry, or maybe most industries, to me, I think it's kind of a simple formula. And I've said, you just, people can differentiate themselves in different ways, but I think, two ways that are easy and completely within everyone's control are through work ethic and attitude. So so if you have the opportunity every morning you wake up, it's like, how are you going to work? As a good friend of mine, Scott O'Neill, says all the time, working unreasonably hard. It's just like which I love that term. In terms of there's people that everyone says they work hard, but there's kind of a next level of that work ethic that can differentiate yourself. And then attitude wise, whether that's being a good teammate or being someone that other people enjoy being around, whether that's people that are below you on the org chart, above you on the org chart, or peers of you. If you're someone that people like and like to be around and that are helpful to other people, it's I think culturally that's something I've always tried to establish, is how do we have a culture where people can be competitive with one another, but also simultaneously root for one another. And that's tricky because they're competing for promotions, they're competing for in sales, in some cases dollars, in their pocket by making sales but so how can you be in a situation where you drive competitiveness, but also have a situation where people can root for each other, and that's where if you can strike that balance, you've got good things will happen. And so if you're one of those people, it's like, how can you be driven by the person who's sitting next to you who just closed a big deal, and that's going to and be happy for them and be a good teammate, be supportive, but then also have that manifest itself in motivation for you to step up your game. And so that would be what I would say to young people and to myself. I got that advice early on, and so luckily the Brad of the future didn't have to come back, because I had other people who were very helpful and instrumental in my career that gave me great advice. And so anytime I can kind of pay that forward. But to me, those are two easy ways and the things that are 100% in your control, because they're obviously, right, we know not everything is in your control. There's other factors that are never going to be in any of our control. So it's control what you can control, and go make it happen to the best of your ability every day.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Brad. I appreciate the time. Next time you're in Los Angeles, you let me know. I owe you
Absolutely.
a coffee or a beer or both.
Will do, man. Yeah, I look forward to it.
All right.
Great to see you.
Brad. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right. Cheers.